overcoming imposter syndrome took a while. In hindsight, what I learned is that it's a very normal thing to experience in a high-performing, high-pressure environment. But no one was talking about it. So I was sure that I was the only person that felt that way, and I was sure that my thoughts were reality. So you pick and choose things that fit your narrative. And I think just being aware of it and having the perspective can get you outside of your head and be like, okay, the people around me are experiencing this. If we just talk about it, if we're willing to be vulnerable and share that we're struggling, share that we have the doubt, I almost guarantee the people that you talk to are going to be like, I get it. I've been there. I felt that exact same way, or I am feeling that exact same way. And just sharing it normalizes it and makes you realize that this is just part of the process of learning, not an indication that you're a flawed person that doesn't deserve to be where you're at.
On Air, brought to you by Women in Aviation International, strategic partners Amazon and United. Michelle "MACE" Curran is a highly sought-after international speaker specializing in overcoming fear and tackling self-doubt. She spent 13 years as a fighter pilot and served as the second woman in history to fly as the lead solo pilot to the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, performing for hundreds of millions of fans. MACE has helped notable clients like Microsoft, Boeing, John Deere, SpaceX, Purina, PwC make more bold choices and push past obstacles. She's been featured by many notable media outlets, including The Kelly Clarkson Show, CBS Evening News, Glamour, and many others. She extends her reach via her social media platforms, where she is a LinkedIn top voice and reaches millions of readers per month. Welcome, Michelle, to WAI On Air. Thanks for joining us. You conquered a lot of fears to become an elite lead solo pilot for the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. Can you tell us about that journey?
Yes. So I flew for the Thunderbirds in objectively dangerous maneuvers, right? High risk of failure, or the repercussions are just high. But I'm still a normal human with normal fears. And so when I was thinking about how to translate courage and bravery in certain situations and making people realize that it doesn't mean you're like a superhero that's just doesn't feel fear. It's just that you've worked really hard in that area to overcome it and do the thing despite being scared. So the two examples, when someone's like, what are you afraid of? You give speeches in front of thousands of people, which is a very common fear. You flew at an extreme level in aviation, very common fear. Spiders and tight spaces. So I think spiders, a lot of people are afraid of spiders. Gross, don't like them. But the tight spaces is more surprising because the cockpit of an F-16 is tiny. It is a tight space. I think I was okay there because you have this big bubble canopy. So it's like a window. If it was all painted in and I was just in this capsule, I think I would feel more claustrophobic. But when I was brand new to the Air Force and first had to start wearing the mask, I really struggled with claustrophobia. I wanted to rip it off my face. And I had this moment actually when we were doing our high altitude training in the chamber, where you're in there, you have the helmet on, the mask on, they're raising the pressure altitude in this chamber. And I was starting to panic. And I'm looking around at my classmates, and you can only see everyone's eyes. And everyone seems like they're just chilling. And I'm in there just I can't breathe in this thing. If I rip it off, I have to pass this training to go through pilot training. This is my dream. And so I had this mental battle. And I was able to kind of calm myself down and talk myself through and be like, no, you can breathe. It just feels uncomfortable. We are okay feeling uncomfortable. It's not the end of the world. And I made it through. And then I had to fly with a mask every single flight. So I got used to it. But it was also kind of a teaching point for me where I really realized that I could mentally control what was scary. And that was really empowering.
Have you always had a passion for aviation, or was there a specific moment that sparked that interest?
I was a little bit of a late bloomer when it comes to figuring out aviation and my passion for it. So I was an adventurous kid, loved climbing trees, roller coasters, all the things, but I was also super shy and introverted. And I didn't have any exposure to aviation or the military really, but I always liked things that were exciting and adventurous. So I'm about maybe halfway through high school, probably like 16, 17 years old. My dad was like, hey, you have really good grades. We don't have a college fund for you. Let's look at scholarship opportunities. So he told me about Air Force ROTC. And my first reaction was, I don't want to be in the military. I want to be a normal college student, do all the normal college student things. But then the more I looked into it, I realized I could get out of the small town I grew up in. I could travel the world. I grew up in northern Wisconsin, town of about 4,000 people. Honestly, a great place to be a kid, but I wanted to see the entire world. And so I did not want to stay there. So I saw the military as a way to get out of my small town, be part of, something that's big, something that matters, and also pay for college. And so initially I went into college as a criminal justice major because I wanted to be an FBI agent. So my plan was to do 4 years on active duty to pay back my scholarship. Probably like special investigations would have made sense. To get out, apply to the FBI Academy. Obviously that didn't happen. So fast forward to about halfway through ROTC, now I'm in college. We go on a base visit down to Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida. And I get to stand on the ramp and watch 2 F-15s take off in full afterburner to go do a training flight. And I think I'd seen jets fly for like a national anthem flyover before, but never just like that close in your face. And it was a visceral reaction. I got goosebumps. I was just like, forget the FBI. I need to go at least try to do that. And so quickly after that, you got to the point in ROTC where they're like, hey, who wants to compete for a pilot slot? And it didn't matter what your major was. So that moment kind of inspired me enough to find the courage to be like, put my name in the hat. I want to compete for a pilot slot. And I ended up getting one, went off to pilot training, and just had a little bit of a natural aptitude for it because I went into pilot training with 0 civilian time. I'd ridden along as a passenger in a Cessna one time before that. No actual hours logged. Not an engineer or any major that helped me at all in the aircraft. But I also was super driven, willing to work super hard. And I just worked my butt off for the next couple of years. Ended up being second in my class for pilot training. Got one of 2 fighter jets that was available to a class of 25 people. The F-16, which was also my first choice on my dream sheet. And went off from there to learn to fly the F-16, combat squadrons, and eventually the Thunderbirds.
I know our listeners are really interested in hearing the true story of how you got your call sign MACE.
Yes. So my call sign's MACE. Fighter pilots all have call signs. They sound cool. They generally come from a mistake that you made as a young pilot. Most people don't know that. And we tend to kind of keep the story close hold because of that. And so there's a rule that people have made up, I guess. I think it's twofold. Some people have really embarrassing stuff they don't want to share. That's the origin story. They also, I think, like to get free beverages. So there's like this tradition where you only share your call sign in person over a beer. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. But okay, so this is hypocritical of me because in my new book, I share the whole thing. Because I've been like teasing it for so long, and I think you're like, okay, that's cool, but eventually you just need to tell us. So it stands for Mach at circle entry, which people are like, I don't know what does that mean? Mach speed of sound, right? Circle entry is a dogfighting term. And so basically I went supersonic during a dogfight. It was my first real training mission and my first combat squad. I was like brand new, not good at all. I light the afterburner, just leave it there. It's cold. It's a really great engine that had a lot of thrust. It was a different engine than I'd learned to fly the F-16 on. I needed to modulate that a little bit, but I was so overwhelmed by all I was just task saturated. There's so much to do. So I leave it there. Imagine like an IndyCar driver just pressing the throttle all the way to the floor and then never letting up. That was me during that. So the jet's supposed to be subsonic when you roll and try to point at the other jet and shoot them, all the dogfighting things. It just got so fast. It was above the speed of sound. I'm supersonic. So when I roll and pull and try to point at them, there's so much energy on the aircraft that I hit 9 Gs, which normally it loses energy in that turn. And so you can really only maintain 9 Gs for a little while, like a few seconds. But because I'm going so dang fast, I hold it for a full 360. And I almost G-locked. I had full light loss. So that means I can't see anything. I'm blacked out, but I'm still conscious. So I'm still aware of what's going on. My instructor made a radio call that ended it. I came back. I didn't G-lock fully, but during my full-length keynote, I tell it like very detailed exactly what happened and what I was thinking and everything, because it's quite the story. It was scary, and it was a big wake-up call for me as to how serious of a business I was in. And it actually, I think, was a big catalyst to go down that path of imposter syndrome and self-doubt, because I was like, I almost just killed myself on like my first flight here. I'm definitely not cut out for this. So sounds cool. Wasn't cool.
Can you walk us through what it takes both personally and professionally to become a Thunderbird pilot?
So the hiring process for the Thunderbirds is complicated. So people often ask about the different numbers, the different positions on the team. The lead solo always starts their first year on the team as the opposing solo, number 6. And then their second year on the team, they kind of graduate up to the person in charge of those 2 jets and become the lead solo, number 5. So when you're the lead solo, you kind of own the radio communications. For the 2 jets, you're always the one that's inverted. For like the Calypso, where the tails look like they're touching, or the head-on passes, you control all the radio, the timing, all that stuff for that. So I knew when I got hired that I would eventually be the lead solo, but you don't have a lot of say in which position you get hired into. When you go interview, they're like, hey, we have positions X, Y, and Z open, and you're really interviewing for all of them. And the current team looks at all of the open positions, everyone that applied, and then they try to fill in this puzzle to figure out whose personality fits the best in the best positions, like who will make a good lead solo on their second year, who would be a good wingman and eventually be an instructor for a new Thunderbird 1 that will come in. There's so many moving pieces. A lot of it's flying skill, but a lot of it is personalities as well. And so they're trying to construct the most high-performing team that they can. They have it down to a pretty good science. It's not always perfect, but they picked me to be a solo, and then I naturally progressed to be the lead solo for my second and third year. Overcoming imposter syndrome took a while. I would say my entire first assignment, 3 years in Japan, I really struggled with it. Some of it was just that's the amount of time it took for me to start to get better at being a fighter pilot, right? Like some of it is just learning your job and showing yourself that you are capable of doing it. And that's not a great answer because it takes time and people want a quick fix. So some of it is being patient. In hindsight, what I learned is that it's a very normal thing to experience in a high-performing, high-pressure environment. But no one was talking about it. So I was sure that I was the only person that felt that way. And I was sure that my thoughts were reality. And the funny thing is I had this moment where an instructor that I thought was a really great pilot, he was about to leave Japan to go to his next base. At that same time, I was starting my upgrade to become a flight lead. So I was about to go through this syllabus of all these graded flights where I would be put in charge of 4 jets in the air. On his way out the door, he was like, Mace, I'm super bummed at the timing of your flug, the flight lead upgrade. I'm not going to get to fly with you as an instructor, which would have been really fun because you're really good. And I was just like, what are you talking about? I'm not good. And it was this weird moment where I was like, I really respect this guy and think he's a great pilot, but in this moment, I don't believe him. So you like pick and choose things that fit your narrative. And I think just being aware of it and having the perspective can get you outside of your head and be like, okay, the people around me are experiencing this. If we just talk about it, if we're willing to be vulnerable and share that we're struggling, share that we have the doubt, I almost guarantee the people that you talk to are going to be like, I get it. I've been there. I felt that exact same way, or I am feeling that exact same way. And just sharing it normalizes it and makes you realize that this is just part of the process of learning, not an indication that you're a flawed person that doesn't deserve to be where you're at.
Mentoring and networking is so important to any career journey. Who mentored you along the way in your aviation journey?
I don't have one that like really, really stands out. It was different people at different times. I have a story that sticks out though. When I saw the hiring email for the Thunderbirds, I already had a follow-on assignment to go to my next base, not to the Thunderbirds. I see this email that they're hiring. I had missed apparently the first few emails that said that they were hiring. So this was like the last call. It was like, hey, dum-dum, if you haven't seen these yet, applications close next week. I had always thought the Thunderbirds seemed like a really cool assignment, but I had also had a lot of doubt as to whether or not I was actually good enough to be part of the team. So I'd never told anyone it was something I wanted to do. It was just me being like, yeah, that would be cool, but not having the courage to actually go after it. I see this email. I had just gone through kind of a 3-year period of really forcing myself outside my comfort zone to make bold moves. I had become an instructor pilot in the jet. I had gotten to deploy. A lot had happened to really help me grow as a person. So I open the email, I read it, I meet every requirement, and I'm at a point in my life personally where I'm like, I'm ready for an adventure and a challenge. Like, this seems like the perfect time to apply. So I go to my boss, great guy. We had a great working relationship. We had done career mapping, mentorship, and all these things. I had never mentioned the Thunderbirds. And I go in there and I'm like, hey, sir, so I saw an email today. The Thunderbirds are hiring. It was not at all like a movie moment where I was like, sir, I want to apply to the Thunderbirds. I was just like, so an email? And he was like, okay, Mace, do you want to apply? And then again, not a movie moment. I was like, I think so. And at that moment, I threw the responsibility back on him to see if he believed in me or not. I did not have the courage yet to do this on my own. In that moment, he could have very rightfully so been like, you never really mentioned this. You already have your follow-on assignment. We're a little bit behind the power curve on getting this application in. You should apply next year. And I would have been like, you're right. Sounds good. Instead, he said, I think you would be perfect for this position. What can I do to help you get your application in? That one decision he made in that moment changed my life. Like, I was on the cusp, and who knows what would have happened if I would have ever applied had I not applied that year.
It's incredible how a single conversation can change the course of someone's life.
And I texted him years later after I left the team when I was doing what I was doing now. And I hadn't really talked to him, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but that single conversation as a commander, I think it was a good reminder for him of how much influence you have in those roles and how your willingness to take an extra 5 minutes to mentor someone can completely change their life. It can crush their dreams, or it can help, water their dreams to send them down the road for them to grow. And I think he really appreciated that follow-up years later because he had seen me go on and be successful. And he just played such a tangible role in it.
Thanks, Michelle. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Women in Aviation International's Aviation for Girls program is dedicated to inspiring girls around the world to pursue their dreams and empowering the next generation of female aviation and aerospace leaders.
You've published 2 children's books.
Yes.
Upside Down Dreams and What's Your Call Sign? What prompted you to write these books?
While I was with the Thunderbirds, the ability to inspire people and uplift people, it became very apparent that I was in a unique position to do that very early on. And we go to our first couple air shows and, we fly the demo, we land, and we have an autograph line. And we're all lined up by number, we're spaced out, and people line up to come do meet and greets, sign autographs. And I'm brand new. I'm very overwhelmed by everything. I'm still trying to be good at the demo. It's just a lot at first. So I'm like madly signing autographs and taking pictures and stuff. And all of a sudden, one of the other pilots comes up and he's like, hey, Mace, how's it going? And I'm like, what are you doing over here? Like, we're still doing autographs. And I look up, everyone is gone. They're all done signing autographs. They have no more people to sign for. And I have a line of like 200 people just go. And I'm like, what is happening? And in that line was one set of parents after another with their little daughters. And I started to have these interactions where a parent would bring their 6, 7, 8-year-old up to me. And a lot of those kids are shy at that age. And it would be this little girl. And, the parent would be like, look, Anna, she just flew that jet you just watched. That jet you just loved so much. She flew it. This little kid would look up at me. Their eyes would light up. And I literally got to see what they saw as possible for themselves in the world just grow in front of my eyes. And I knew it was important to have female representation on the Thunderbirds because it had been, I think, 5 years since Blaze had been on the team. So that's a lot of kids who weren't seeing themselves represented. But when I started to experience it firsthand, it was so powerful. And it made me just a massive advocate for the whole see it to be it concept. Because kids, their whole idea of what is possible for them is formed around what they're exposed to. And actually today, during the meet and greet, a female pilot came up and she told me a story where her son actually said something about not knowing that boys could be pilots because he had only been exposed to his mom and her friends. And I thought it was a really like a reversed example of how kids' view of the world is so shaped by exposure. And so anyone that says, like, kids don't need to see someone that looks just like them to have the dream, like they don't understand why representation is important, I would point them to that example and those interactions I got to have with those girls because they were so powerful.
Speaking of cool things, you had the opportunity to be on the Kelly Clarkson show. What was that experience like?
So one of the cooler things I got to do with the Thunderbirds early 2020, right before the pandemic, was be on the Kelly Clarkson show, which whole Hollywood thing. Like I flew to LA, I'm at the studio, full hair and makeup team, green room. It was a really cool experience. Kelly also is just like she is on TV. She's super nice and personable, so it was great. But I was there to surprise Amelia, who was a little 7-year-old girl who had a Thunderbird show suit and was confident that she was going to be the first female commander of the Thunderbirds. So I was, the only woman on the team at the time. And so she was obsessed with me. Even though I wasn't the commander, I was her favorite, right? So Kelly brings her out. She doesn't know I'm there. Like, they kept us separate. So Kelly brings her out, and little Amelia's sitting there. Her feet don't reach the floor on the couch, and she has little cowboy boots on with her Thunderbird show suit. And Kelly's like talking about the Thunderbirds. And then she's like, well, is there like a favorite that you have? And Amelia's like, yes, sure. She's number 5. Her name is Michelle. She flies upside down all the time. Like, in the way that kids get so excited, they like can't talk. And then Kelly's like, Major Michelle Curran is actually here. And the video's on YouTube. It is so cute. Amelia's like, and then she turns around and the studio has a live audience and there's a couch. Like if I was sitting on the couch and there's Kelly's chair and there's a coffee or like an end table here. And then this whole area is open. Like that's where I'm going to walk onto the stage from behind the couch. Amelia's sitting right here. She turns around. She like climbs over the back of the couch and the end table, like just jumps over them, comes running, and I bend down. She runs like full like reunion style hug into my arms, and she won't let go. She's like, and I'm like, we're live, like we're shooting a TV show. So I just pick her up and I walk around the couch and we sit down. And it's funny because her little cowboy boots are swinging as we're like walking, and she's just so excited. And that was 5 years ago. People still talk to me about that clip all the time and how they saw it and how it was so amazing. She's, I think, 13 now. So she's in Civil Air Patrol. She's like on her way to do amazing things in aviation. But it was really cool to have that moment with her, to experience Hollywood from that perspective. But also I just know that that segment has impacted a lot of people.
You've obviously transitioned from being a lead solo pilot for the Thunderbirds to kind of a new career as a keynote speaker and author. Talk to us about that transition.
Yeah. I get asked a lot why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because people saw the Thunderbirds as a dream career. My time there was coming to an end no matter what. I actually did a bonus year because of COVID, so I did 3 years instead of 2. So had I stayed on active duty, I would have stayed flying the jet, but I would have gone back to an operational squadron, a gray F-16. Which that's great, and so many people go and stay for 20. I was at the 13-year point. While I was with the Thunderbirds, I had those interactions with those kids and with a lot of women and men as well. And I realized that I was in a very unique position to impact a lot of people in a positive way. And that had become my favorite part of the job by far. The flying is super cool, but 3 years of doing it at that operations tempo is exhausting. I was burned out on it, I'll be honest. And so my mission had shifted from being the best F-16 pilot I could be to, okay, how can I leverage this experience that's super unique, this story, the hard things that I've gone through that I think are so common, but are probably surprising from a Thunderbird pilot? How can I use all of that and storytelling to change people's lives? And I didn't see that I could do that necessarily staying on active duty. And the other most common path is to go fly for the airlines. So many of my friends fly for the airlines and they love it. But I also thought that there was something different that I could do. I was just in such a unique position. And so I kind of just took a massive leap of faith. It honestly reminds me of that moment of seeing those jets back in college where I was like, I need to go do that and I'm just going to figure out how to make it happen. I think it was happening again for me. I need to go do this. I'm going to figure out how to make it happen. And that was 3 years ago. And I have run full sprint, I would say, for 3.5 years. I've run full sprint for 3.5 years, trying to become the best keynote speaker I can, becoming a children's book author, becoming an author for adults, which I feel like is weird to say, authoring a book for adults on personal development and kind of like a memoir. And I lose perspective. I lose perspective sometimes of how much I've accomplished in 3 years. But when I have a second to talk to someone who talked to me 5 years ago, or just today, someone that coordinated a speaking event for me during my first year saw me speak this morning. And she's like, there were similar elements in the speech. She's like, you have gotten so much better. It was incredible to see the transformation. And I mean, the number of people I've gotten to share my story with now is tens of thousands for sure. I mean, on social media, it's millions, but in person, tens of thousands. And I've done it long enough where people are following up with me months or years later and being like, hey, I saw you speak at event X. During your speech, I thought of this big, scary thing I wanted to do. You gave me the courage to go do it. And here's what's happened because of it. It's the coolest thing. It's cooler than flying a jet, I'll be honest.
Another one of your new projects is to publish an adult book. Tell us about that.
So I have a new book. It's called The Flipside, How to Invert Your Perspective and Turn Fear into Your Superpower. And it's very much like a self-help type category. It's written to change people's lives. But we do that by taking stories from the cockpit, also outside of the cockpit, kind of the most transformational events that happened in my life over my time in the Air Force, pulling the lessons from them. A lot of it's based in human psychology, like why we struggle with self-doubt, why we get stuck in our own heads, the role of fear, how we can create our own luck, how we can flip our view on fear, how we can control our emotions to respond to things in a productive way instead of react. Like so many things that I learned in high performance aviation that really just anyone can use, no matter if it's pursuing flying or it's dealing with some sort of terminal diagnosis and you're like, oh, my life just changed in the worst way, or it's getting cut off in traffic and you're angry, right? Like there's things in there you can pull that I think are just so valuable, and I just wanted to get them out in the world, and I knew most people would never have the opportunity to sit in a keynote speech. So the book was a way to do that.
The WAI conference, you've not only attended, but been a keynote speaker. What has that experience been like for you?
It was way bigger than I thought it would be. I don't know what the head count was that year, but what, 4,600 this year? My hometown was 4,000 people. So to speak to that many people and to get to go from sitting in the audience and just being like, I've never been surrounded by this many female aviators before. I was often by myself. And to feel the community and just the welcoming, the feeling of belonging, really, I missed that for most of my career. And it is just, it's like palpable here. Everyone is so positive. They're so uplifting. I think people meet people here that become lifelong friends. So to get the opportunity to speak to that audience, and I said it during the speech, to be able to inspire an audience that inspires me is a rare thing. So it's been tiring. I'm losing my voice, but so rewarding. Like my cup is full again. And I get to do a lot of corporate events and they're fun and they pay, of course. And they're like, it's great, but this is the most fulfilling type of event for me to do. That audience was my people and I could feel it.
Thank you, Michelle, for joining us. And do check out her book, The Flipside. We'll see you on the next episode of On Air.